So yes, now this is from Butebury. Dear Simon and JP, Happy New Year to you. Hopefully a good new year for all us. My question is regarding that I have heard many in the truth movement comment that if we are to be saved, that only we can do this for ourselves. I presume that this has not changed in the last 2,000 years or so, but has always been the case. Is Jesus Christ then all part and parcel of the system of control, or possibly something that the elite want us to put our energy into so that we actually manifest such a being through our power to create? If he was in the past a real person and the controlling bloodlines of today are of his blood, then who exactly is he? Many thanks from Stuart.
Probably the hardest question I've ever been asked in all the years we've done the radio show.
Pretty astute.
Yeah. Sometimes something can be created by the system to uphold the system, and then it rebels against the system. If you think about the Matrix film, Neo was originally a character that was created by the system because every so often it rebooted and he was just to play a part in that. But he grew beyond that, and so the controllers were actually fearful of him because he achieved a level of freedom that no other Neo before him had achieved. In the Matrix film, it didn't actually break free, but he bought such a large slice of freedom that there was the potential for humanity to break free of its own accord. Right. If Jesus Christ was a full controlling or controlled element, he would never have overturned the money changers' tables. Jesus wasn't against the fact that people were lending money. What he was angry about was the interest rates that was being charged. So he overturned that. They didn't have banks in those days. Well, what they would have is literally just a bazaar and a marketplace, and there would be tables. And there was each of the areas of the bazaars were earmarked. So you would have fish in one corner. Don't imagine in the markets that we have in Great Britain or other places. Actually, Germany is quite themed. But in Britain, you could have a fish stall next to someone doing bread, next to somebody doing chocolates. It's like whoever turns up, they get the stall. But there wasn't like that. So you would have the bread quarter, you would have the olive quarter. There would be, and you would then look at 5 or 6 stalls and you would say, who has got the best quality olives? Who's got the freshest fish? So you would be able to compare them. So the money changers had one section. And they literally had tables. They were called money changers because they also did, other countries had different coinage, but they made their money by lending and then charging a huge interest. Jesus overturned those tables because he was abhorred by people living off the poor. Rich people don't need to borrow money, and when they do borrow money, they're in a position to pay it back in a few days' time. One person once said to me that banks only lend money to people that don't need it. What he actually meant was people who've got assets already frozen or hidden, but they have a lot of money, but it's tied up. But poor people who have no assets, if you go to a bank and you want money, the first thing they say is, well, what have you got? A surety. What have you got? Have you got a house? Have you got this? Have you got a health insurance policy? What is it that if you fail to pay me back, I can take off you? And that's the reality. So that's what Jesus was against. Was Jesus a real character? I believe that he was. I do not believe that he was completely created in a book. I think he was. I think that he was designed to do something and then went against that programming. And he decided that he would be a maverick and he would do what he chose to do out of free will. What's happened is that in order to maintain the masculine energy control on the planet, the people who eventually became the religious masters, took out certain elements from the Bible, like Enoch and others, changed things. They didn't change it all. They still left some mistakes, which give us some fantastic clues. But basically, they turned it into a story, a play, which ultimately the sales pitches come to church. The whole thing about the Bible is come to church. Whereas Jesus actually said to his disciples, and I quote, you, in English, you don't need to go to church to pray. Jesus actually said you can pray in your own home. And in fact, that's what he wanted. He wanted people to pray in their own home. He did not want people to pray outside. He used to say, look at all these people praying in public, just to show you how religious they are. His actual words were how devout they are. Why would you need to stand in a public place and rock backwards and forwards and mutter and make offerings? You're doing it in public because you want people to see how you are. So he turned against the control system. He turned against whatever plan they had for him. And one of the reasons that the story came to an end was because they couldn't take him any further with it. So, yes, the story in its essence is correct, but it has been completely and totally hijacked and been used for totally wrong elements. I remember when I was in school, primary school in the 1970s, Jesus was blue-eyed, blonde hair, and skin so fair. He must have just come out of a Sunday school. That is the image that was portrayed. And I always found it, how could somebody go to Africa and say, you heathen bunch, I'm going to make Christians of you. Here is my God. He's got blue eyes, fair skin and fair hair. He looks nothing like you. And this is my God, and I want you to worship him. And I tell you another story. When I was in London, it'll be 1985, a lot of people from black and ethnic minorities in London, have been for a very long time. And I remember a young woman from Jamaica, born in Jamaica, came to Britain, saying that when she was in school in Jamaica, there was a class of goodness knows how many, but they used to always, they were light-skinned. There was one girl that was very black, and they used to make jokes of her and call her Midnight because she was black. So here you have racism amongst a mixed race group where being the lighter skinned was seen as being really good and being dark skinned was seen as really bad. And so you get Hollywood who want very light skinned people from the Caribbean, and then they'll push them into high positions or give them lots of media coverage. Does it all go back, I wonder, to missionaries 200 years ago arriving on the shores of Africa and saying, this is my God, blonde hair, blue eyes, fair skin. So this is the problem on this planet. It's a very clever programming system, and we don't have to be clever to break through. We just have to be truthful, and we have to believe in ourselves and just throw this nonsense out. So sort of a roundabout answer, but I hope that helps a bit. Thank you.
Yeah, I think people need to remember is, the people we see as, the first black president, he was not that black, really.
No, he wasn't.
A quarter or something. And, a little bit of
British.
Yeah.
He was British. He wasn't American at all. He was born in the Cayman Islands.
Oh, wow.
He was British. He was British. And they had to do all the swaps on him. He was got ready for being president when he was 5 years old. They'd have planned that all out. They do that with these people. I'm glad we don't have him anymore. And that was the problem. That, of course, it seemed like fantastic, finally. What Martin Luther King had once said, when we see a black president, we know we've got free. And everybody thought, fantastic. We've got a black man, the next thing we'll have is a woman. But what happened was that they just got a more of the same in a different package. And that's why they learnt the lesson, because they didn't say, Hillary Clinton, we're going to have our first woman president. What they said is, oh, it's more of the same wrapped up in a different package. And that's what's interesting. People are not falling for it anymore, not in the numbers they used to. It's very encouraging.
So, continue.
I'm going to add my 2-cent commentary to this one. Very clever, Simon Parks. Very clever. You don't score no brownie points with me, but I was kind of digging how you was indirectly trying to say, you know, hey, you know, the blue-eyed, blonde-haired Jesus. Well, how do you present it to Africa? Notice, y'all, how he kept mentioning Africa, and then he brought up the girl from Jamaica. What is he trying to say? I got you, Simon. I got you. I know exactly what you're trying to say. You know, it would have been nice if you just came out with it and been honest with me and Miss Victoria Vibes Kong, you know, and just said, hey, the man was black. That's what you're trying to say. You were very indirect about it, but again, no brownie points, but nice try. As for the comment you made about Barack Obama, thank you. Now, I will give you kudos to that because I was never a fan of his. He didn't do shit for the blacks in America. My opinion of Obama is so incredibly low. Somebody would have to wake up extremely early in the morning to do something to make it lower than it already is. I don't even want to go on I don't want to go on a tirade about him. I despise the guy, you know, and I'm glad he's out of office also. So that's one of the very rare things I agree with you on, Simon. Kudos to you for speaking ill of Barack Obama. And as far as it goes with you being indirect, nice try, but you could have did a better job and just flat out came out and said he was black. Let's call it what it is. Not even sugarcoat it. Signing off.